Okay, as customary after Shavuos, we wish each other a gesunden Sommer. May it be a healthy summer, and the blessing before Shavuos we give each other is to receive the Torah with joy and inwardness and inspiration. So after Shavuos, Hashem gives us a few days to make up the sacrifice that was supposed to be offered on Shavuos. We have a few days to offer the sacrifice. And similar to the obligation of offering the sacrifice, the days that follow Shavuos are also days where when we're especially empowered to make good on anything that we didn't do properly on Shavuos, if our acceptance of the Torah wasn't with the right joy, the right inspiration. So that's what the days after Shavuos are about. They're called Tashlumin. Tashlumin means make up days, but it also means days of perfection. Hashem allows us to perfect whatever was missing in Shavuos. And so I wanted to share a few stories about acceptance of the Torah and the Hadi of Shavuos. First story I read in the Sichas HaShavua, the excellent publication that comes out from Tziri Agudas Chabad in Israel. This man named Avram ben Yishai, who lived in the mid-1800s. He was living in Tunisia, and he was known in his community as a very generous person. And one of the things that he would do was he used to have a lot of guests for the holiday, especially the holiday of Shavuos. He would have a lot of guests. All the Torah scholars in town would come to him for Shavuos. But things became so difficult for him that he had to literally sell his belongings to get by. And right before Shavuos, his wife sees her husband Avram crying. She says to her husband, "Why are you crying? You're crying because of the finances." And he said to her, "I'm not crying because of the finances. I'm crying because I don't know what I'm supposed to tell all the rabbis who are expecting to come here to enjoy the holiday feast of Shavuos. We don't have anything to give them." So she right away said, "Don't worry, I know what to do." She had one article of jewelry left, a a necklace, and she went into her bedroom and she gave him the necklace. She told him he should pawn the necklace, and with the money, she'll be able to create a beautiful dinner for Shavuos. So that's what he did. He pawned the necklace, and he's about to come home and to give his wife the money so that they could have she could buy the items they needed to prepare for Shavuos. But on the way home, he met a noted Kabbalist, the author of Erech Shulchan, not to be confused with the Aruch HaShulchan. His name was Rabbi Yitzchak Chai Teib. Yitzchak Chai Teib was a noted Kabbalist, and he was on his tombstone. It says that he made also not just Kabbalah in general, but in Kabbalah itself, there are two different categories. One is called practical Kabbalah, means the kind of people that can do heebie-jeebie stuff, if you will, with Kabbalistic wisdom. And so on the way back from the pawn shop, he meets this Yitzchak Chai Teib. Among Sephardic Jews, he is known as, very correctly, Baba Sidi, because he was especially the miracles that he did, and he's so endeared to the community, to his people. So they called him like the Baba Sali. He was Baba Sidi. Anyway, so Rabbi Yitzchak Chai sees this man, sees Avram, and Yitzchak Chai says to him, "Give me all the money you have in your pocket." So he hesitated. Uh, what'd you say? He said, "I said I need all the money right now in your pocket, and please don't delay anything. I need this right now." So he knew not to question the words of this tzaddik, this man who had divine inspiration. But it was a moment, and he withdrew all the money and gave it to the tzaddik. Tzaddik blessed him, and he went on his way. Soon as the tzaddik left, this employee of the local governor comes over to me and he says, "Oh, Avram, I've been looking for you. The governor wants these cups that are plated with gold, these ceramic china cups plated with gold. I know that only you these they aren't really in on the market anymore, and the governor asked me to get them, and I knew that you might have them. So as a deposit for these cups, he gives them a literally a bag of gold. This is just a deposit, and God willing, you'll be able to find them. We'll give you the full amount. So Avram says, I'll try to find them. I don't know. He said, okay, good. When you find them, go to the governor's mansion and bring him the cups. As soon as this governor's um, employee leaves, Avram passes by this shop, and this ugly man says, "Oh, maybe you'll be interested." And he shows him in his shop. He has these coffee cups. These coffee cups are ceramic coffee cups with plated with gold, exactly what this guy wants. And so he brings them to the governor. And this employee says, "Oh my gosh, you brought them exactly what the governor wanted. Anything you want is yours. The governor likes so appreciative. Whatever you want will be yours." So Avram says, "It's just an honor to serve the governor." And the governor actually gave him um, some sheep and some clothing and some silver, a lot of money. And on the way back from the governor's mansion, he meets again this Rabbi Chai Taib, and Rabbi Chai says to him, "So who gave who more? Did I give you more, or did you give me more?" That's what he asked. And Avram ben Yishai said, "You gave me more." And that's really the way this is, not just with tzaddikim, not just with those who are gifted with divine inspiration. This is true in general. As it says in Hayom Yom, at the Baal Shem Tov, the anniversary of passing was today. The Baal Shem Tov taught, "Love a Jew, and God will love you. Do a favor for a Jew, and God will do you a favor. Bring a Jew close to you, and God will bring you close to him." So, just like when God gave us the Torah, it said in order for God to give us the Torah, we had to be in a state of absolute unity and love and oneness in order to deserve the Torah. So too, every year, it is our love for each other and connection to each other and our giving up to each other that brings us the Torah, but not just the Torah, as it says in Yom Yom, it brings God's closeness and God's love and God's favor. So next time you think like, oh, this person needs a favor, I'm wasting my time, I have things I need to do for myself, you have to realize when you're doing someone a favor, you're doing yourself a favor. It's not just something that the Rebbe said. This is a reality of life. Al Shem Tov taught that doing someone else a favor is doing yourself a favor. Loving a Jew is loving yourself. Bringing a Jew close to yourself is causing God to bring you close to Him. So on that note, I want to share with you another story I heard from Rabbi Yisrael Talshevsky, who heard the story after the passing of Rabbi Michal Raskin, who ran the fruit store on Kingston Avenue. Could be there are some details off, he said. The story, as he shared it, is this. There was a young man who wanted a blessing to find his soulmate, and he was telling Rabbi Michal about his efforts trying to find a soulmate, and Rabbi Michal said to him immediately, "I don't understand. You were living in Crown Heights. You know the Rebbe gives out dollars and blessings on Sunday, and you know these blessings are miraculous. So why in the world are you have this difficulty that you're carrying on your own shoulders? Why wouldn't you turn to the Rebbe and ask the Rebbe to pray for you and to bless you?" So the yeshiva student said to the Michal, "I would love to ask the Rebbe for a blessing. However, I get tongue-tied, as often happened when people will come to the Rebbe and plan to say something to the Rebbe. The Rebbe looked at them and they couldn't speak, they weren't able to speak. It happened so very, very often. This boy told him, "Listen, I'm going to go by the Rebbe. It's going to be very intense. I'm going to try to speak to the Rebbe, but I don't know if I'll be able to be successful." And I tried to speak before, and when I try to get a word out, they're pushing me to go, and I can't concentrate. So Michal says, "Listen, next time you go, stop by my store. I'll help you." The boy said, "Okay." He goes stop by the store. Michal puts on his coat. They walk together at 770, and the boy goes in front of Michal, and Michal was a large man, and he was a presence. No one's pushing him around. So he stands behind the boy and he stops the line. and everyone sees that what he's trying to do, and the secretaries didn't push him along. And this young man uh, was able to speak to the Rebbe and never give him a blessing. And 6 weeks later, around, this young man found his soulmate, and they were engaged already very shortly after his visit to them. Rabbi Groner, Olav Shalom, their secretary, was driving down Kingston Avenue, and Reb Michal apparently knew when Rabbi Groner, as his store is on Kingston Avenue, the fruit store there. So since when he saw Rabbi Groner going down Kingston Avenue, he approached his car, and he told Rabbi Groner that the boy that the Rebbe blessed is now a groom. Please share this with the Rebbe. I know the Rebbe would appreciate this. Okay. Shortly afterwards, Rabbi Michal himself was by the Rebbe. I don't remember what it was for, dollars, or after the holidays, the Rebbe would always give out wine for a blessing. Whatever what the occasion was, he went by the Rebbe, and the Rebbe said to him something with this content. We accomplished something together, didn't we? We accomplished something together. In other words, simply, Ramichal had helped this guy come to the Rebbe, and now the Rebbe was able to give him the blessing, and so he had a share in this boy's good fortune. But I think the story is deeper. I think the Rebbe was saying to him these words of Baal Shem Tov, that we need to bring people close to ourselves, do favors for people, and Hashem pays back. And it's true that all that he needed to do was give up a little bit of time and a little bit of concentration on his store and to stand in the line with his boy. I'm sure it took several hours, but the Rebbe recognized this as real love for a fellow Jew, and the Rebbe expressed himself as, we partnered on this. And so going out of your way to help other Jews is a way to partner, so to speak, with the Moshe Rabbeinu, with the Moses of our time with the Rebbe. That's what I'm hearing in the story. Anyways, I wanted to share with you another story about my colleague, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak Reichik, the Rebbe's emissary in Boynton Beach in Florida. Reichik shared this story with the Hair magazine, a fascinating story. He said that his father and his grandfather had the tradition of visiting the Rebbe before Rosh Hashanah and bringing the Rebbe letters of their community before Rosh Hashanah. Rabbi Reichik Senior and his grandfather, Rabbi Shmuel David, they would go every year before Rosh Hashanah, and they would collect letters from anyone who wanted to send letters from Los Angeles and beyond to the Rebbe before Rosh Hashanah. As is customary, before Rosh Hashanah, to send the Rebbe what is called a pan, a pidyon nefesh, a request for a blessing. So he told his community about this, and he was excited to continue the tradition of his father and his grandfather. And so he had a lot of letters to bring to the Rebbe. But when he returned home, he was shocked to realize that he had forgotten to take the letters with him. And he had planned again to come to the Rebbe. I'm sorry, this wasn't before Rosh Hashanah. This was before Yud Shvat, the anniversary of the passing of the previous Rebbe, and the day when the Rebbe accepted leadership of Hasidim and the Jewish people a year later, the 10th of Shvat. So when he came home and he realized that he forgot the letters, he decided that his next visit, which was going to be on the 11th of Nisan, the Rebbe's birthday, then he'll go and then he'll bring the letters. That's what he decided. But his son was going to go with him to celebrate his third birthday and to have his upsharnish there in New York by the Rebbe. And so it was a very busy time for his family. And so unfortunately, he forgot the letters a second time. And he felt terrible about it. And the Shabbos after Pesach, he decided that after Pesach, he'll send a letter somehow to New York. That's what he decided. The Shabbos after Pesach, this man in his community named Clem Sofer gets up and he says, I want to tell everyone about the great blessing it is to write a letter to the Rebbe. I should point out that there's a tradition by Hasidim that writing to the Rebbe is not only about sending a letter to the Rebbe. As the Rebbe once expressed it this way, the Rebbe said that writing a letter to the Rebbe is like having an audience with the Rebbe. And not just having an audience, but connecting the Hebrew word for a private audience that in the Hasidic lexicon, the term that's always used among Hasidim for a private audience is yechidus. Yechidus means to be alone, but yechidus also means the word yechida, which is the deepest part of the soul. So the Rebbe was saying that when you write a letter to the Rebbe, it's like connecting your yechida, your deepest part of your soul, with the Rebbe's yechida. So this guy, and the Rebbe said it doesn't matter if the letter arrives, doesn't arrive physically. Just writing to the Rebbe already establishes a connection, and on that level of yechidus. As a previous Rebbe told Rabbi Slanim when he visited Israel, even though your family, the Slanims, never left Jerusalem as was their tradition not to leave Jerusalem, but they wrote letters to the Rebbes in Lubavitch, and by writing a letter to Lubavitch, it's like traveling to Lubavitch. And the Rebbe spoke about this on several occasions, about the power of the connection that's achieved by writing a letter. So it's not about the physical letter arriving. However, this man was speaking about his experience, and Rabbi Reichik was actually feeling terrible about this because he didn't do his part. The man had asked him to bring the letter, and yes, the Rebbe receives it how the Rebbe receives it, but he didn't bring the letter, and so it bothered him. What was the story he shared? He had a friend whose son was married to a non-Jewish woman, and so this bothered the mother a lot. And so this man asked this woman, this his neighbor of his, a former neighbor of his, why don't you speak to your son about leaving this non-Jewish woman and marrying someone Jewish? He's Jewish, he should marry someone Jewish. That's what this Clem Sofer said to this woman. She said, my son told me if I bring it up to him again, he'll never talk to me again. So I can't speak to him. So Clem says, listen, why don't you write a letter to the Rebbe? Rabbi Reichik is going to New York. Send a letter to the Rebbe, and in order to bring the blessing down, wouldn't it be a good idea to light Shabbos candles? Light Shabbos candles, and that merit, lighting the Shabbos candles, that will that will bring down God's blessing. That's what this Clem advised his former neighbor. She said, "Okay, I could do that." And she writes a letter to the Rebbe, asking the Rebbe for a blessing that her son should leave his non-Jewish wife. And so Clem's sharing the story, the Shabbos after Pesach, and he said that she indeed started lighting Shabbos candles. And 2 weeks after the letter was sent, this man and his wife had a big fallout, and he told her, it's materializing. The Rebbe's blessing is materializing. Continue trusting in God. Continue lighting the Shabbos candles. A few weeks later, this neighbor calls him up to tell him that her son has filed for divorce. And he kept on encouraging her, trust in Hashem, and keep lighting the Shabbos candles. The day before Pesach, her son arrived at her home, and he had brought with him a girlfriend to come celebrate the Passover Seder. This Jewish girlfriend had brought with her a gift for her hostess. What was a gift that she brought? She brought Shabbos candles. So she was shocked, and she started to cry, she started to sob. It made her realize that the reason her son is meeting this girl is all in the merit of her lighting the Shabbos candles. And this all happens, says Clem, at this Farbrengen on the Shabbos after Pesach, because Rabbi Reichik on the 10th of Shvat brought our letter to the Rebbe. Now, Rabbi Reichik is thinking, like, on the one hand, he felt so good that he had a part in this miracle. On the other hand, he felt terrible because he didn't really have the part in the miracle, and he forgot the letters twice. He had 2 opportunities to bring these letters to the Rebbe, and he hadn't brought them. So the rest of Shabbos, he became very introspective, and he's thinking, what does this all mean to me? And after Shabbos, he stood in front of the Rebbe's picture, and as Rebbe once said to a woman who's having a very hard time, the Rebbe said that looking at the picture of my father-in-law, when you feel a weakness, in your good desire to do good will strengthen you. And it's understood, the Rebbe said, that because he's a true shepherd, he is also looking at you at the very same moment. So, anyways, Rabbi Reichik, um, he um, he felt that it was because he had a lack in his own bond with Rebbe, and a lack in his. He decided to make a few decisions to strengthen his connection with the Rebbe. And meanwhile, he took the letters, and as it says in the Sefer Minhagim, it says in the book of Chabad Customs that if you're not able to bring a letter to the Rebbe, what you should do is put it into a Tanya, put it into a book of Chassidus, put it into a Tanya, as because it says Tzaddikim are similar to the Creator. So just like God, as we just read to on the holiday of Shavuos, the words "I am Hashem your God took you out of Egypt." The Talmud says the word "I," Anochi, is an acronym for the words "I, my soul, I wrote it and gave it." So Hashem put His very soul in the Torah, and so too it says about tzaddikim, they're similar, so to speak, to the Creator, and therefore, uh, putting a letter into the tzaddik's words, into the tzaddik's book, is, so to speak, temporarily a way of giving the letter to the tzaddik. So he took the letters of his community and he put the envelope and he put it into one of the Rebbe's books of letters, and he just put it in. He wasn't planning to look at it, but as he puts it in, he noticed a line that on top of this letter that he opened up to. I received the letters from the members of your community. I received letters from the people of your community, and this mamish really reinforced all the good decisions that he had made. Um, and he said this really was a dramatic change in his whole approach to the Rebbe and his mission there. And he felt that this was the beginning of a tremendous success in his mission over there in Boynton Beach, so much so that the following year, a year later, on Yud Aleph Nisan, he was able to share with the Rebbe that he closed on a 5-acre property, which was incomparable to what he was able to do year before. So the story highlights the power of writing a letter to the Rebbe and connection to the tzaddik, and reaching out does something. Reaching out, writing a letter actually establishes a connection. I want to share with you one more amazing story. This is a story which I may have shared about 4 years ago, but I read this year again on Pesach, on Shavuos. I think it was printed in originally in Kikar Shabbat. Unbelievable story. But this young man, his name is Yisrael David. He was born on Shavuos, and he was named after the Baal Shem Tov, and he was named after King David, who both passed away on Shavuos. And he was very successful in his study in yeshiva. And he had this interesting hobby of making caricatures. And he didn't show his caricatures to anybody, but just for his own enjoyment, he made these caricatures. Among the people he drew caricatures of were the members of the faculty in the yeshiva. Anyways, the holiday of Shavuos comes because his birthday is on Shavuos. His father asked him to come with him to the shul and to study together, to spend some time on his birthday together with his father. Although the official rule in the yeshiva was that everyone should study in the yeshiva, he went with his father to another synagogue. He came back after the time of curfew, and the mashgiach, the man in charge of making sure all the boys show up on time, he was not. He apparently had a chip on his shoulders. He had some issues clearly. He says to this is Yisrael David. He said, "What happened to you? You weren't there." Yisrael David says, "You know what? I guess I deserve a consequence, and I'm sorry." So this rabbi is like, he hissed under his breath, says, "You haven't seen the enemy. You don't know what you're into. You'll be hearing from me." That day, the end of the prayers, the mashgiach gets up in front of the entire yeshiva, and he says, there are some people which externally behave appropriately, but their inside is rotten in its core. And one of these people is a boy who pretends to show such respect for everyone in our faculty, but really he has complete disrespect and is not really at all the way he seems to be. And that is why when we looked into his dormitory room, we found this, and he takes out the notebook of all of his caricatures, making fun of he didn't make fun of all the faculty, but they were humorous caricatures of them. And he said, and that's why he didn't come to this to study Torah with everyone else in the yeshiva, because he's just rotten to his core. That's what he said. You can imagine how Yisrael David was affected by this. He was mortified. He was crushed. He came home, went to his room, and he just cried. His father thought that he was just upset and it'll pass. The head of the yeshiva called, and the words of the head of the yeshiva, the words of his father, fell on deaf ears. He left the yeshiva and he left his home. And he went with some friends to Tel Aviv to stay in an apartment together. And he spent his time making caricatures and selling them on the boardwalk. And that's what he did. He was doing this, selling these caricatures very cheap, and that's how he got by. And he was doing this for a while, disconnecting from his previous life completely. One day, this guy comes and he sees him. This guy has long hair and a guitar, and he says to this man who attends to Yisrael David, "So you're making caricatures?" He says, "Yeah." He says, "Tell me about yourself." He says, He shows him all the caricatures he makes. He says, "No, no, no. I'm not interested in the artwork. I'm interested in the artist." And apparently, this man was very sincere, and he got to him, and Yisrael David opened up to him. He told him his story, and this man with the guitar said to him the following words. So I want you to know there are two kinds of Jews. There are Jews who are born of Shavuos, of the giving of the Torah, and there are Jews who are born from Rus. Rus, as customary to read on the holiday of Shavuos, the story of this woman who refuses to listen to reason and logic and a plan for the future and to benefit herself. She leaves everything behind to become Jewish. So she was pushed away. Her mother-in-law said to her, you should leave. There's no reason for you to come back with me to Israel. But Rus held on and she became Jewish. So this man told Yisrael David, there are people which are like the giving of the Torah. They are connected to the giving of the Torah. There are Jews who study Torah and the mitzvahs and they feel at home because they never were pushed away. But then there are Jews who are pushed away. They are distanced from the Torah, from mitzvahs, and they suffer because of this. And you can't blame them because they were pushed hard and pushed away. But if someone were to turn around and come back like Rus, they are acting like, and they're a child of Rus. And a child of Rus is the same as Mashiach. It says Rus was the grandmother of King David, as we read as it says in the end of the book of Rus. And Rus also, therefore, is the grandmother of Mashiach himself, because King David was the grandfather of Mashiach. Mashiach comes from the seed of King David. So the man told Yisrael David, he said, the Shavuos Jews, as great as they are, they're not the ones who mother Mashiach. They're not the ones who actually make it happen. The ones who actually bring Mashiach are the ones who are able to bring the light out of the darkness. They have a direct connection. Okay, all the Jews, every mitzvah does something, for sure. As Maimonides says, that every mitzvah, before we do anything, say anything, or think anything, we should realize the world's on a scale, and one good thing can tip the scale. But there's something unique about someone holding on despite being pushed away. There's something unique about holding on to Hashem and not listen to the voices that are pushing you away. And he says you can't blame someone who stays away. But on the other hand, if someone, despite being pushed away, holds on anyways, that's how Mashiach comes. That's what makes Mashiach come. Saul David heard him very deeply, and he's very touched. And he actually decided to come back home. He waited for Shavuos. When his father came back from Shul, he joined his father, and he walked home with his father and came back home. The holiday of of Shavuos is a holiday to come back home to the Torah. We're all like children of Rus because we all have things that push us away from where we're meant to be. Um, one of the decisions, one of the things we're supposed to strengthen ourselves in on the holiday of Shavuos is studying Chita, studying Chumash, Tehillim, and Tanya every day. And some days there are you feel pushed away from it because it's hard to consistently study Torah. Every day it has the challenges of that day. But holding on to the Chumash Tilm and Tanya, holding on to the Rambam, every day studying it, that's that directly connects us to Hashem and the Torah and the mitzvahs in a deeper way, in a way that directly opens the door to coming Mashiach, when we will see Torah Chadash Mititeitze, a new revelation of Torah. When we see this happen, the card of Mamish. A gute Vach, a freilich Vach, Reb Berel, Reb Mendel, Reb David, Esther Miriam, Chol David. Any questions or comments or criticism?